Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi man wala. We spoke the last 2 weeks about education. The last 2 weeks we spoke about education. In the first week, the core message was what? That when your child learns proper cognition, they learn to think, at that very stage, we stop the Islamic studies. When the child reaches 15, 16, now their cognition is maturing, at that very critical stage, we completely stop their Islamic studies, or we reduce it to maybe an hour, 2 hours, or some just reading practice. And that was the message of the first week. The second week was what do we actually do instead? Is that we replace it with what I regard as a broken schooling system. And last week I mentioned a number of reasons why I feel the system is broken for a number of reasons. Can I ask Muhammad just to drop the volume, please? I mentioned a number of reasons why I thought the system was broken. So what's the next step? Is to think about solutions. Next step. I think again the first thing I wanted to make you aware of is that you tend to not fix something unless you know it's broken. So you as a parent, you must be fully aware about what's happening to your child. It can't just be like an outsourced deal. You just package them and they come back and you have done your homework. You have to be fully aware of what's happening with them. And number two, and most importantly, you have to take ownership for your child's education. You have to personally take ownership for your child's education. So I put together some thoughts. It's not like any, just my own thoughts. I typed it this morning at 7 o'clock this morning, so I didn't give it I still need some discussion, but my own thoughts on what I think education should be. Some of it's a bit small, but I'll just read through it inshallah. So a few things I think. Like if we had started with a blank sheet of paper and think I have a child now, maybe she or she is 4 years old, or 5 years old, or 6 years old. What am I going to do with this child for the next 18 years or 12 years? Because schooling is roughly about 12 years, from about 6 to 18. So you have a child and you're going to have a 12-year system that we have in our country, a 12-year system. What do I want for those 12 years? What do I want for those 12 years? So for me, I frame it in terms of critical questions. I'd want my child to be able to deal with some, critical existential questions about their life and their existence and about the greater purpose. These are important things. I don't want my child to go through a system where they just think about subjects. I'm doing math, science, bioaccounting, English, Afrikaans, and I must get 80% because then I'll become a CA. I can't reduce my child's education to that. For me, they have to come out of a system being able to engage and discuss and come to some conclusion on some critical questions. What kind of questions? Who are we? Who are you as an individual? What are you? So you have to understand there's self-knowledge. Who are you? Do we discuss these things? You have aql, you have a ruh, you have a qalb, you have a nafs. There are critical questions, you have a purpose, all those things. Who is Allah? Where are we in time and place? What I mean by that is because you have to form the child's identity. A child doesn't grow up in a vacuum. None of you in a vacuum. You come from a family, you come from a city, you come from a country. It has a history. You have a history, your family has a history, you have an identity. There's a place you live in, there's a time you live in. You're living in the 2020, whatever you're living, you're growing up in. You're growing up in a certain time. So you have to situate the child in the time and place, and they have to understand the time and place. Because we grow up with children who are disconnected from any history. More so now than ever. Maybe you still know you have some ties to your history. Children now almost grow up in this vacuum, this identity. There's no attachment to anything. How does the world work? Important questions, because you're going to navigate the world for the rest of your life. How does the world work? What is materialism? What is secularism? What is propaganda? These are the things of the world. They have to understand the world. Probably most importantly also, what's my purpose in life? Framework for that. At the moment the purpose is what? get good marks, good degree, good job. That's all we as teachers and parents. That's like the main purpose. That the whole system is built for that purpose. There's a greater purpose than that. How do we organize ourselves as individuals and societies? It's important. Because we live in a developmental existence, we're trying to improve things, trying to build things. So the entire discourse is how do we organize things, improve things, build things, myself, my family, my community. How do we interact with others, how do we engage with others? So these are just some questions. I think that if your system doesn't answer these questions, if these are not the core of your system, what's your system doing? If you can't answer these questions, what are you doing? You understand? Like at the moment, like it's almost like this kind of disintegrated, I don't know, atomistic kind of education system. Like you're learning about the atom now, and the bell rings. You learn about the amoeba, and the bell rings. You learn about, I don't know, kring in die bos. The bell rings, and you learn about. There's not like narrative. And child's like, okay, next one, textbook. It's like a mindless journey the child's going through, and like you're just dragging him through the education. There's like no coherent theme, questions. You know, it's very problematic. The child never deals with this. They try to make 2 guidance periods a week and say, okay, that guidance or LO, what do they call it now, that's going to sort out all these questions. It doesn't work like that. Very problematic. Elements of it, what I think it should be, you must obviously have a core body of knowledge, which I'll break down in the next slide. But I think beyond just knowledge, like we must be beyond giving our child a set of content. Because the world has moved past where you become a subject expert, and then that expertise that you set for life. The world's in different space. You don't like just do accounting like for 4 years and then okay, I'm accountant for life now. It's like a different world now. So it's beyond just giving your child a body of knowledge, but that's going to be part of it. But also you must give your child like conceptual understandings of things, because concepts like transcend subjects. Concepts can transcend subjects, but we're still in the subject framework. We have to give our child actual skills also, because skills leads to competency, leads to confidence, leads to a good sense of being. One of our biggest issues is how much can you do sitting 10 years behind a desk. Have you been to a classroom? Go walk in the classroom. Go to any high school. You walk inside and there's a desk, and you sit there for 10 years now. Workbook. Really? And I'm not 2-3 hours, 6-7 hours sitting there. And when you're done, go home, take out your book again, sit. Really, I think it's like just a completely abstracted theoretical approach, which I think is very problematic. The children need physical skills. They must cook and mend things and build things. Like when I was in school, back in the day, they used to have like home economics, and they used to have woodwork and metalwork. Those things actually develop a child because you built something. It's a different part of your brain that becomes activated. We had art classes. I don't know if they have all of these things anymore. Maybe they do. Well, then that's best. Attitudes are important, right attitudes. And I think also linked to skills is that we have to translate our knowledge body into action at a young age. It can't just remain a textbook-based education. And I think to get all of this right, you have to house all of this within a positive social environment. Because once you put 1,000 kids into 2 or 3 buildings, you get this you get this mob thinking. And everybody would eventually sink to the lowest common denominator. Because the culture is almost like overpowered by the mob. The culture is overpowered by the mob, and the teachers are controllers of the mob. They're trying to keep the mob in order. So you have to, what actually needs to happen is you have to set the culture, and the child walks into a certain culture. Like if you come to this class, there's a certain etiquette in this class. So someone who comes in here, they'll immediately sense there's a certain way to behave in this class. You can't come here and shout something or come lie on the floor here, because there's a certain culture that is observed here. Teachers act in a certain way, students act in a certain way. We've created a culture here. So we have to get a positive culture where the child gets absorbed into the culture, not the mob makes the culture. So that's what we have. And it's not difficult. I don't think it's difficult to do with big groups. It's difficult to do with big groups. Lastly, I don't really believe there's like a cookie cutter, like best practice answer. Like children are actually vastly different. And I think you have to recognize the differences in your children because they have different career paths and they have different educational paths as well. I think it's problematic to reduce all children to a set of 12 subjects. Just think about it. All children are reduced, like I don't know how much, 12 subjects. How much choice do you have in high school? 12, 15 subjects? I don't know. You choose 6. All children, like that's your 6 you choose. And we'll give you like 3 compulsory. Or 2 compulsory, so you can choose 3 out of a set of 12. And they're all just theoretical exercises. They're just textbook based, workbook based. Children are very different. Some children are like risk takers. They out there, they're going to shout, they're going to challenge. Some are more reflective, they're quiet. Some are critical thinkers. Some are all different types of children. You have to deal with them differently. You have to educate them differently. You have to engage with them differently. So these are just some of my own thoughts on what I think education should be. And this exercise you must go through with your family for your child, with your child. You don't have some sort of idea what you want for the next 12, because you only have you have a short window. When the child is 16, maybe 18, you essentially have lost your child. Mommy, they're not going to listen to mommy when they go to university. Yeah, mommy is like low on the radar. Mommy and daddy is low on the influence radar. So you have like, you literally have like 6, 7 years. You have like a short window to shape a child in a healthy fashion. After that window is gone, the child is gone. The child, they're adult now, they're gone. You have a very short window. And the parents who are the 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, you can feel you're losing control. You can feel that loss of control. And you don't know what to do anymore because the threats don't work anymore. You can't give them hiding anymore. What are you going to do? The threats don't work anymore. You're losing it, and you can feel that loss, and you're panicking. But you have to rewind and start from the beginning. So I think each family has to go through this process. Okay, so this is in terms of approach. In terms of actual components, this is my own thoughts on what I think components are. Number one, I think that we have to, what I call, we have to engender, we have to make the child absorb a theocentric worldview. What do I mean by theocentric worldview? I mean that Allah is the center. And I don't mean we must teach him Aqidah. There's like a fundamental difference between me saying, okay, there's the Allah and the angels and the books and the messengers, and Allah's creator and Allah's destroyer. Like, for the child, that still becomes a subject. You understand? Like when you present like in a framework and textbook, it still becomes a subject. The ethos must be that Allah is the center of everything. That must be in every interaction, must be there. So it becomes like normal for the child. Allah is going to teach you, and He's going to provide for you, and He's going to give you a health, and He's going to help you with this, and He's going to help you with that. And everything, every single moment must be that Allah is the center. Not reducing it to like a one period of Aqidah or one term of Aqidah, and I'm going to change the child. There's a very big difference. And obviously, if you want to do this, it presupposes that the teachers also have the same ethos. Because whether you're teaching any subject or any skill or any concept, you as the teacher have to know that Allah is the center. So you communicate it all the time. So the child, even though they're living in the world of means, of asbab, they know that Allah is behind everything. And they don't know it on an intellectual level, they know it on a real level. Because we're like a bit damaged, so we have to keep reminding ourselves. We have to remind ourselves, I'm feeling sick, give me the Panado and give me the flu ticks. And after, oh, Allah, okay, Allah, please help me. You have to remind yourself. You go to work every day, and then only like a few months later, then you get some financial crisis. Oh Allah, please give me a rizq. It's not automatic for us, because we haven't been raised in the same worldview. But there are people where it's automatic, where Allah is their malja, is their refuge in every moment. We can create a wali of a child like that. That Allah is their refuge from the time they're 5, 6 years old. Where they can't tie their laces, they'll ask Allah to help them. Because that is prophetic. That is prophetic. So this is what I think is at the center. Number 2, it's called experiential spirituality. It's one thing to talk about being close to Allah, it's another thing to experience it. Through adhkar, through dua. And normally if it's done communally, for a child it has much more impact because they're in a group and they're reciting the dhikr of La ilaha illallah or salawat together or du'as together. They experience something. Because children they are very close to their fitrah. So when you give them something for their heart will connect much easier than mine, your heart. So I think that adhkar and dua must be part of a child's day, every single day. And frequently as part of the day. Because now the child is not just hearing about being close, they're experiencing closeness all the time. And hopefully that experience becomes their life's journey. That they will cling to that experience all the time. What experiences are our children attached to? They're attached to music. Music is a spiritual experience. Really, like music is like a spiritual experience for most young people. Your teenagers are listening not to the earphones, they're listening to Quran or Nasheed, they're listening to some other kind of songs. I'm not talking about the fiqh of music now, I'm talking about the effect of it. It becomes a theme in their life. It becomes something which they find comfort in, they find rest in, they find elevation in, they find all these things because it's very powerful. Music is a very powerful thing. We have to harness the power to bring our children closer to Allah. Others they'll find something else to experience. They'll replace it with something else. Number 3, a lot of self-observation, understanding, and how to interact with others. This is essentially what this character development is. Character development is to understand who you are, understand your shortcomings, understand your positive aspects, understand your weaknesses, and understand how much you engage with others. And you have all the virtues of sabr and tawakkul and all the other things you must have, and that's part of akhlaq is part of the child's education, and the akhlaq is both taught and lived. It's lived by the teacher, it's lived by the parents, it's lived by the students, it's lived by everybody. Our way is we speak in this way. Our way is we interact in this way. Have you heard teenagers speak and interact? There's like a vileness about it and a grossness about it. We have to change the culture. And even if we're creating culture within a culture, that's fine as well. Next one. I think a focus for me on stories. Why do I think this is important? Is that we have to provide the right aspirational role models as part of your core education. Whether it's Anbiya or Sahaba or great change makers in the world or great people of contribution, doesn't matter. But we have to put within the child, a story is an incredibly powerful tool. Why do you think movies are so powerful? Why is the series so addictive? Because we are built for stories. We love stories. It's part of us. It's always been part of a culture. We have to change the stories. We have to put the right stories told by someone who loves the story to a group of children who will connect to the story. I also believe that your core Islamic content, and I don't like to say Islamic, non-Islamic, but just for convenience sake, your core Islamic content means how to be with Allah, which is your ibadat, how to be with people, which is your mu'amalat, how to interact with people, which is your akhlaq. Your core Islamic content must be a focus of your education, not a free period. You do like twice a week. Because generally, students regard this as like a free period. It's unimportant. And again, it must be, and also how to understand his guidance. It must be you see, you must put your Islamic content within a story. So how I am with Allah is my ibadat. How I am with people is my mu'amalat and my akhlaq. How I follow Allah's guidance is what I need Arabic, I need Quran, I need Hadith, I need scholarly advice. This is how to follow Allah's guidance. It comes in the form of a story. Just for intersect, there's a Khazali thing happening, but I'll tell you about it next time, inshallah. Next, I believe we have to move away from a subject approach, more to let's call it an information skills approach. What do I mean? I mean, if I think about what I want in like conceptual frame, like what do I want for my child, I don't necessarily want my child to know this textbook. It's unimportant for me whether they know this history textbook or biology textbook. What do I really want for my child? I want for my child the ability to find, access and navigate information. Because we live in a world of huge information. So I want them to be able to obviously read, comprehend, know where to find information, know how information is graded, primary sources, secondary sources, reliable sources, unreliable sources. They have to be able to navigate the world of information. The subject is just the medium. It's not the objective. Second thing is what? I'd want our young people to be able to think logically and critically. That they're able to take information and, is this a logical statement? Does the statement make sense? Do I agree with the statement? Because that's what the world is about. You're bombarded with information in everything. You have to go through all of the information and come to a conclusion. That process must start young already. We can't come and say, this is it. 6 textbooks and this is it, and that's the next 12 years. The tools are more important. The last thing is that once you've navigated information, analyzed information, what's the next step? Is to express your conclusions. Whether in writing or speech or art or drama or anything, you must be able to express your conclusions, because that's how you change the world, is by expressing yourself. So again, and this comes from, if you look at what they call, I think it was the ancient Greek method, they call the trivium, where you had to learn grammar, because in that time grammar was how you understood language. Then you had to learn logic, because logic was how you navigated the language. And you had to learn rhetoric, because rhetoric was how you express yourself. That was the education system. Grammar, logic, rhetoric. That system was then applied to subjects. But a subject is a medium to apply the skill. Because the medium, the components are more important than the actual subject content. Because the rest of your life you're going to have to find information, analyze information, come to conclusions and express your conclusions. That's more important. We live in like a learning society. I know it's a lot of things, but anyway, almost done inshallah. Numeracy. I believe numeracy should be more real world skills or concept based. I think it's problematic to check a child from the age of, I don't know, how old, 7 years old, math textbook number 1, 8 years old, textbook number 2. When you abstract something too much, it becomes irrelevant and unuseful. You have to return, because numeracy, whether it's accounting or whether it's maths or whether it's stats, it has a real world application. You have to tie it back to the real application constantly. Whether it's programming, it's a form of numeracy, it's a form of logic. You have to tie it back to real applications all the time, because that's how they're going to use it. Because after, like, like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, there's like a long system of abstracted knowledge. And at some stage a child either gets lost, or they understand it, but they just memorize formulas, or they just memorize past papers. Okay, that's how we do the things. But it almost like ceases to have real practical value. So I think it has to be based within. And like, I don't like, why do we do accounting instead of stats? Like simple questions like that. What point of it is doing 6 years of accounting if you don't want to become an accountant? Like, what is the point of that? Why just do like a few months of accounting to understand the concept and carry on to some stats or something, or some economics or something? But we've kind of like sit in these patterns. We don't even know why we're doing the patterns anymore. Now, next thing is agency. And agency is the ability to choose for yourself what you want to learn. And I think we mustn't rob a young child of that. Even though they're 7 years old and learn about cars, we encourage them. Watch a YouTube video, open the car, let them, when they learn about birds, we encourage them. Because agency is when I have an interest and I facilitate the interest for me to learn, I'm making the child love learning. Most children hate learning. They like dread it. It's like, I have to do it because I have a test assignment. How many of your kids actually like learn in their spare time? Very few. Very, like 10% of your children. In their spare time will open a book on a subject of interest. We don't facilitate agency of the child. Another one is, one of my biggest things is get away from the desk. How much did the desk change your life? Being behind a desk, how much did it shape your thoughts, your worldview? How much? Little. You know what shapes, what teaches you is life teaches you. I believe at a young age a child must be involved in entrepreneurship. They must be involved in social outreach, working for an NGO. They must be involved in skills development, actually building things, doing things. At a young age, 11 years old, 12 years old. Because that is real life, and real life teaches you about life. And when you engage with real life, it makes you understand what you want and what you don't want for your life. Last one on the slide, inshallah. I think I mentioned the last one already. Again, this is a journey that you can take for your own family. But you have to plan what you want for your child. Last slide. Can I go? Last slide, inshallah. 2 minutes. Creating solutions. The first step is what? Taking ownership. Step number 2 is planning what you actually want. And number 3 is what? Creating it. I thought about this for a while, and I was actually proud of our legacy. Because us as a Muslim community, we have a legacy of building our own education institutes. We've built hifz schools, we've built madrasas, we've built Islamic schools, we've built full-time Islamic courses, we've built part-time Islamic courses. I don't believe there's another community in the Western world that has more than us in Cape Town. And if there is, tell me about it. I don't believe there's another community in the Western world that has more Islamic education institutions than we in Cape Town. I believe we are number 1, top of the pile. We are the envy of the Western world. And every speaker who comes here opens their eyes will realize that they should come to learn. Because we are really. So what I'm saying is now is that we have to continue this legacy going forward. That we have taken ownership of our own community's education. And if some things are broken in that list there, or some things aren't functioning well, or something else is broken, guess what? We have a legacy of making a difference. So I don't want you to think like, oh, it's beyond me, the schooling thing is like too difficult and I don't have expertise. We have a legacy of doing these things. We have a history of it. We have people who have done it. We have built institutions. And we have to continue doing that. So, okay, last two points. So a lot of parents are going to worry about matric. There are alternatives to matric. There's homeschooling, there's cottage schooling, little informal schools. There's online schooling, you can do your complete matric, grade 8, grade 9 on online school with videos and everything. Mostly run by churches, because they have very much the same concerns, Afrikaner churches. There are other qualification bodies, you can do your Cambridge, you can do your GED. And there's part-time evening schooling. There's also like no schooling also. I know it sounds like crazy, but you could choose for your child not to have matric. It's not like some holy grail, you know. I know like you must like, oh, what matric? It's not like some like elevated amount of learning. You could choose for your child. If your child is not going to enter a professional industry, because not all your children are going to become doctors, lawyers, engineers. Some of them are going to become a dressmaker, some of them are going to become a plumber, some of them are going to become something else. Then why don't they have to have matric? It's a choice you make. Don't make automatic choices, make conscious choices. So what I'm saying is the matric question is always like, you know, I must be part of the system because I must be matric. All I'm trying to say is there are alternatives. How do you think all our thousands of fifth students take out 3-4 years of the time and they come back with a matric? Because you can jump out, you can jump in again. And you can jump in full time, you can jump in part time, you can jump in the evening. That's not a problem. I think the precedent that we have a precedent in our country where the government allows us to have our own Islamic institutions. Now they said, okay, now for hifz schools you must get, I think about 4 hours of academic time. So the MJC on a Saturday has a class of academic subjects on a Saturday. You know how brilliant that is. That means you as a government telling me I can have my own child for 5 days a week. That's like a blessing. Someone is saying legally you can take your own child for 5 days a week, just put it into an institution. We have a window of opportunity to create our own institutions. Okay. Last bullet. It's a long discussion, all of this. But the first step is to take ownership. Number 2 is we have to engage with each other. These are just my ideas I typed out this morning. You have your ideas, but you as a community, if the system is broken, we have to create the forums to come together and discuss what the solution is. And when we have discussed, all of you either have children, or inshallah one day you're going to have children, and the person next to you has the same problem that you have. We have to come together and we have to create a solution. And you are paying so much fees now that guess what? You can afford another solution. Because if 10 of you come together, you might afford to pay 40,000 a month to build something else. Because you're all paying 4,000 a month, or 3,500 a month. So 10 of you are paying 35,000 a month. Trust me, for 35,000 a month, you can do something better. I believe that. So I don't have like a solution. I have the steps to a solution. And we have to walk these steps, inshallah. And this is not some sort of theoretical academic exercise. This is your children and my children, and it's their lives. But the first step is awareness, inshallah. May Allah guide us, inshallah. And from here, I'm not going to talk about this again. I hand over to you as a community. Because you can't just say, like, okay, what are you going to do next? I do my things already. My plate is quite full already. I hand over to you. As parents, as professionals, as competent people, as experienced people, all of you can create a meeting and come together and say, we have a meeting of parents of 3 to 6 years old, 6 to 9 years old. We're discussing education, we're looking at models, we're having a research team. You do this at work all the time. If you can do it at work, you can do it for the sake of your own children's lives, which is infinitely more important than the project at work that you're busy with. And you know what, it's a bit of work, but parenting is work. There's no getting away from it. So at this point, I hand over to you, and I make dua Allah will bless your journey, inshallah. Barakallah. This will be it will be emailed to you, it will be on the drive as well. Wa sallallahu sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.